Yeah, go ahead and turn on, Doreen. Oh, if you want a chance to let the tubes warm up.
No thanks. Well, we haven't done some, so maybe that will maybe how.
I remember too.
Not that long ago.
Mm-hmm. That'd be my luck. Mm-hmm.
Everybody have a good holiday?
Oh, yeah.
Did you get out there?
I did, yeah. You did?
You're at the restaurant. You actually went to the game.
I did.
I drove out of town, and that's exactly why. I seen it on TV. I was not going to go sit in the rain.
I went out there, I left. I was like, I cannot take any more of this. After the little guys, you were hired? After the little guys ran out? You got, I said, no, we're not going to. But I'm not going to do it. Okay, we don't have to do it.
All right. Gardner City Council will come to order. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. We have no presentations tonight, so I will go to public comment. At this time, if there are members of the public who wish to comment on items that do not appear on the agenda or that are on the agenda but not part of a public hearing, if you would please come forward and speak now. That being the case, we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a council member who wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? How would council like to proceed with the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion Morrow, second Harrison, that we approve the consent agenda. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business item number 1. Consider authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement with Cohorse Enterprises Incorporated for the installation of a sanitary sewer manhole with a line grinder near the small Bull Creek lift station. David.
Thank you. This is an item we could have, it'd be within administrative authority for the award, but just in the interest of full disclosure, on April 16th, council approved an agreement with Medical Lodge for the installation of a grinder. As we noted at that time, we've been having trouble with towels, all sorts of things coming down this line, plugging one of our lift stations. That continues. The original concept for the project included the installation of a manhole by city crews. As we came closer to the installation, we reconsidered. We're talking a manhole of about 20 feet in depth. We would have to rent backhoe, we'd have to rent shoring equipment to pull it off. And the third item too is we just flat don't have the crews right now. We're short 3 on the line crew until today. Just had a new hire replace a fellow that quit a couple of weeks ago. But the bottom line is it's just beyond the scope of what we can pull off with our crews. The added cost, based on what we presented to you in April, is about $9,000, $900. If you deduct from that the cost to rent the equipment, we would need for about $6,000 more. for the use of a contractor who's equipped, trained, and ready to go. With that, we would ask for your approval to award to Prohorst Enterprises in the amount of $13,850 to install this manhole and install the grinder inside. We already have the grinder installed.
Have we approached the medical lodge for the other portion of the
No, we
overage?
have not, I think, as we discussed in April, I think the best we can do is, I think, $7,800 or whatever we could get from them, probably as much as we're going to get.
I mean, we're trying to be reasonable about that. Now that the costs are higher, they should also be reasonable, don't you think?
Well, one could think. I don't know.
But unless you ask, you don't know.
That's true, we can ask, but we still need to proceed with the project.
Anyone else?
Well, one quick question. Since, I guess, just as a measurement, since April, have we had any blockage issues that we've had to St. Croix County fix? Do you know how many?
I know in the last, probably 6 weeks, we probably had 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fairly frequent, either pulling the pumps or reversing the pumps for this constant issue.
So what do you find in those pumps when you,
Well, we could find towels, we could find depends type things, we find all sorts of things that will clog up.
and what's the cost of replacing the grate that they,
Well, it's not so much the grade, it's the fact that they've been required to have a grade for years and they have not maintained it, so it's not work.
I thought the grate was too large, the holes are too large, and that's how they're able to get things down inside there.
There,
Wasn't it replaced and it wasn't the...
It was replaced, but the problem is they also have to maintain it. We have to go out, monitor it constantly that the grade's not in place. This has been a long-standing issue over the last decade.
I'm trying to recall, and I don't know right off the top of my head, but was there contribution of $7,680? I mean, was that a not to exceed number? But that was based on half of the cost.
16,000, yes, sir. We will certainly go back and visit it. We have received payment yet anyway.
Were they supposed to pay before we started the project, or?
No, we didn't have that specified, they just agreed to pay.
I move we table the decision until we go back to medical lodges and see if they'll pay the other half of the overage.
David, let me ask you if we table it.
Hang on a second, there's a
Oh,
motion
excuse
to
me.
table. Do we need a second? Or is there a second?
I didn't hear a second.
There's not. Is there a second? Is there a second?
No.
Okay, motion dies for a second, for lack of a second. Randy, go ahead.
With that being considered, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
If it is tabled, what would be the cost of not doing it? And I was in the peanut gallery back in April, so I remember the conversations, not vividly, but what's the cost of not doing this? Well, we aren't. I think it's important to clarify, we're not voting on not doing it. It's the additional cost. We can't go back and change the fact that we're doing the project. No, I
But I
understand.
think he's questioning the delay.
Yeah.
So if we delay it,
Oh,
I mean, if you've
right.
already been out there 5 times in 6 weeks, I don't know when you can have that conversation, so it's probably just continued maintenance, is that correct?
Yeah, we'll just continue to go out, it's at least every other week or probably.
I mean, my opinion is, we went with them with a proposal of what we thought it cost. They agreed to pay the $76.80. We deferred our approach, which was an internal decision. If we can get them, when you have discussions with them, if they agree to pay the additional $3,000-4,000, great, but if not, it still needs to be done, and I think it was a decision that we made to make the change. So, in my opinion, we move forward, and like I said, if they pay the extra money, great.
I agree.
Well, you said it's been 5 blockages since April,
I
since
think
we
5
voted
blockages
on
in
it.
the last,
6 weeks.
probably month.
Month?
I was just recollecting, every time I would submit my weekly update, one of our entries usually was have to pull the lift station pump to free it. And there's at least 5 to 6 times in the last, 6 weeks to 2 months that we've had to make that repair. It's just a matter of staff time and repairs.
When we were discussing this with the medical lodges before, and they were willing to pay half, was it a struggle to get them to pay half? Was this 7680
I don't
a
think
sticking point?
I think this is pretty good for, I think we felt that we got about as much as we were going to get out of it. Because they wanted us to prove that, number one, can you prove it's ours? And we said, yeah, here's your towel.
But does it have a name of, their name on it?
Just being facetious, but they're the only, I think one thing we did do is prove that they were the only facility draining to that site that had the capacity of discharging what was being discharged. Because everything else was just residential. So it's-
But I still can't figure out how this happens. I mean, a grate big enough to accept a towel, why would anyone do that? I mean, what is happening that why?
I hope you have better insight to human.
I mean,
nature
you've
than
seen
I
it, right? I mean,
I have to confess, I haven't been out looking at the materials. Fortunately, I have folks that know what they're doing to pull the pumps, and they tell me to stay away.
When is it that Cohorst would undertake this, if we approved it tonight?
They would probably move as soon as we get a contract signed. I think they have 30 days to do the work. It's about a week's worth of work, so it would happen in next month.
I think going back to the original conversation, Jim would have to recollect, but we talked, and just the cost to litigate in this circumstance and prove beyond reasonable doubt, we are required to provide service, and to prove that all that was there, the cost and the risk involved could have been much lengthier than what we are now, and we would have been in the same boat. Was that, am I recalling that correctly, Jim?
That's correct.
Yeah.
so since they're the only entity that's flushing towels down there, and they're, what happens when it gets clogged up? Does the waste back up into their facility?
No, it basically stops the pump. And fortunately, it's deep enough, it really isn't backing up into it, but still, the alarm goes off regardless of day or night, and our staff has to mobilize and pull the pump. The first thing they'll do is try to reverse it to free it, and then they'll have to pull the pump to dislodge the material.
And if left to its own devices, eventually the sewage will back up.
Yes.
Where will it back up first? Their facility or the closest facility?
I don't have that information, but you don't want to back up. By having been dealt with lift station backups, you really don't want to go there.
I'm sure you don't, but I mean, that would keep them from flushing towels down.
I think you can run into some public.
I think, well, couple things, I think we're kind of laboring this issue. Couple things. First, I would like to commend staff for bringing this to the council, even though it's well within signature authority to exercise the change order without council's discretion. I think they should be recognized for going to be upfront and let the governing body know. Secondly, regarding the facility, individuals within that facility suffer from a number of illnesses, and the staff many times cannot provide 24-hour observation of all residents all the time, and it's indeed very possible that it may be the residents who are flushing these items and not within the purview of the staff to stop them, and because of their conditions, that staff may not be able to provide them enough information to allow them to reason that what they're doing is wrong. So given that and the nature of the facility, I think that David indicated he would attempt to get more from the facility, and if they're so willing, great. If not, then I think we should move on.
But again, the grate size, regardless of who's flushing the items down the toilet, is the last defense before it gets to our pumps. And the fact that they have been allowed to use a grate which does not capture those items before it gets to the pumps means really
This is
we're
something
solving
that-
somebody else's internal problem.
This was something that was discussed back in April, and I believe the answer was that the grate requires maintenance, and that the maintenance wasn't occurring. The fact that it wasn't occurring may or may not be poor facility management. The fact remains that it was not occurring, and therefore creating a cost and an issue for us. This was identified then and voted upon to be the proper means of addressing the issue. So, how would council like to proceed?
One last question. This is a for-profit organization.
I absolutely don't know.
Anyone know that answer?
It may be a not-for-profit.
How would council like to proceed?
I move we approve new business item number 1, authorize the city administrator to execute a contract in the amount of $13,850 with Co-Host Enterprises, Inc. for the medical lodge grinder contract.
Second?
Motion Harrison, second Gregorczyk, that we approve new business item number 1. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. New business item number 2, consider authorizing the city administrator to execute a grant offer acceptance agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for the construction of airfield drainage improvements at the Gardner Municipal Airport. David?
If I may just combine new business item 3 into this presentation since they're related. 2 actions will be needed, but essentially if the grant's approved, then it's the approval of the contract in order. This is the third of 3 grants that have been secured over the last 3 years with the FAA for engineering and now finally construction for drainage improvements at Gardner Municipal Airport. Needless to say, it's a very flat area. It doesn't drain. This phase is taking drainage at the south end, at the east end of the runways, and then at the northwest corner of the runways, improving it to where it will drain. There will be a future project at some point in the future, which will be considerably more expensive to go ahead and take care of the rest of the infield. As you can see on the drawings, you can see some lines that basically it's the northwestern corner, the eastern corner around the hangars, and at the extreme southern corner is where the drainage improvements will take place. The total grant amount is $271,200. That's based on the low bid received on August 1st, which we'll talk about, and then it received from Pyramid Construction to do the work for $263,195. It includes the purchase of wetlands credits, and it's about $7,500 as part of the preliminary engineering. Because the area had been sitting so long, it was basically a wetlands in accordance to the Corps of Engineers. So to proceed with the project, we have to pay in and buy basically bank wetlands because we're removing. The Federal Aviation Administration will pay 90% of this amount. The Gardner Airport Board will pay the remaining 10%. The city has to approve the grant and also approve the construction contract because we are the owners, and the authorities of the Gardner Airport Board don't include contracting at this time. We will hold the contract once we with the award, make payments, and we usually within a month turnaround time. FAA reimburses 90%, and then the Gardner Airport Board. So other than carrying the float for less than a month. The city's out, only out staff time. That's it. So that would be our contribution to maintain and improve our facility. This same language as all the other grants we have. The construction inspection of the contract, which we'll discuss on item 3, will be handled by the engineer Lochner under a previous grant. The total value of the inspection for it is $17,600. It's an older FAA grant, so therefore FAA will pay 95% and the airport board will be paying 5%. In summary, as far as the grant goes, it's a 90-10 grant. FAA reimburses the city for costs, and the Gardner Airport Board reimburses for the 10%. So I can move to the bid amount for the work. Seven bids were received on August 1st for the work. The engineer investment was $273,850. The bids received range from $262,194.50 to $428,720. Must note we did receive 2 bids. The bid package was very specific that you do not submit without, if you don't take the bid forms out of the book, and we basically had one obviously not in compliance with the bid instructions. Therefore, we returned those without notice to follow the bid requirements. Two motions would be required. The first one would be to approve the grant with FAA and authorize the city administrator to sign it. The second motion would then be the second action would then be to award the contract to Pyramid Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $263,194.50. It calls about 60 days to do the work.
What happens if either part of the project goes over budget? If there's just costs and there's overrides that change what these final numbers are, who's responsible for that?
If the FAA does not increase their participation, then the Gardner Airport Board will be responsible.
City won't be on the hook for any of that piece? Okay.
Right. As I say, we are the clearinghouse we hold the contract and basically handle the money and receive the reimbursements. But total cost is either the airport board or the FAA.
Yeah, I had a similar question under the conditions, page 2 of 7, item number 2. The allowable cost of the project shall not include any cost determined by the FAA to be ineligible for consideration as the allowability under the acts. I have kind of that same question as well. So the board would pick up that, not the council and the city.
Should there be anything that comes up?
What if it doesn't reach the max? Is the grant just whole, or are those dollars returned back to the grant?
Yeah, it would just stay with that.
Yeah, okay.
What we do is we just bill for
Actuals.
FAA for whatever the right percentage of anything is.
Right.
How would council like to proceed with new business item number 2?
I move that we authorize the city administrator to execute a grant offer acceptance agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for the construction of airfield drainage improvements at the Gardner Municipal Airport. Second.
Motion Freeman, second. Morrow, that we approve new business item number 2. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. How would council like to proceed with new business item number 3?
I move that we authorize the city administrator to execute a contract with Pyramid Contractors Incorporated for the construction of airfield drainage improvements at the Gardner Municipal Airport. Second.
Motion Freeman, second Morrow, that we approve new business item number 3. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business item number 4. Consider authorizing the mayor to sign agreement number 173-12 with the Kansas Department of Transportation to participate in the federal fund exchange program to partially fund design, engineering, and property acquisition for the Center and Main Street project.
David.
Center Main Street project, the current total cost estimate is around $1,040,000. Includes construction in the amount of about $732,000. We have an agreement with KDOT with participating as part of their corridor management program, so we will be reimbursed for 100% of the construction up to $860,000. Currently, we're at about $740,000. The remaining costs the city is responsible for are design, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocation. The total cost for that is about $307,950. To help offset our expense from the Special Highway Fund, we have been participating in KDOT's Federal Funds Exchange Program, whereby KDOT allocates to cities what, based on population, their share of what they're receiving for local projects from the Federal Highway Administration. What they do is just basically trade federal funds for state funds. They use the federal funds on their project, and then they give us credit for the federal funds at 90 cents on the dollar. The difference of 10% is the fact that they are following all federal requirements, whereby for us to use it for transportation projects, the only requirement we must follow is property acquisition. So we're required to follow the Uniform Act, appraisals, relocation expenses if they have. That's the only requirement we have. We would let the contract under our own policies and procedures. We would inspect it ourselves. But the only criteria, once again, is property acquisition. So that's KDOT's rationale for giving us 90 cents on the dollar, is we no longer have to go through KDOT. We no longer have to follow their administrative procedures. Very simply, it's our project. All we do is ensure to them that we follow the federal requirements for property acquisition. Last year, we offset our expenses to the tune of about $107,400 through this program. This would be a $73,300 installment to offset our anticipated $307,000 that we'd be spending from the Special Highway Fund. So it reduces our liability to the Special Highway Fund for this project to $127,000. We would recommend you approve this agreement and proceed with getting these reimbursements.
Questions? How would council like to proceed with new business item number 4?
Move we authorize the mayor to sign agreement number 173-12 with the Kansas Department of Transportation to participate in the Federal Fund Exchange Program to partially fund design, engineering, and property acquisition for the Center and Main Street project.
Second?
Motion Harrison, second Gregorczyk, that we approve new business item number 4. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business item number 5, consider authorizing the city administrator to execute change order numbers 1, 2, and 3 to the construction contract with N&J Trenching for the BNSF waterline relocation project. David.
This is consideration of a total of 3 change orders involved with the relocation project. I've got a couple of slides we can work through to show what's going on. Initially, let's back up. The first item is an additional $20,000 of pipeline work that's required for the relocation of Waverly, which I do not have is not shown here. This is 100% reimbursable from Burlington Northern because the work involved is on new right-of-way beyond the existing right-of-way. The original contract was for $210,823. At that time, $35,000 was reimbursable. Change order number 1 in the amount of $20,500 would increase the amount reimbursable. Change order number 2, if we go to the next slide, please. Actually, excuse me, I'm sorry. this is the added work that's going on at Waverly's the east-west road. There's just additional pipeline work to, basically to work around the grading that BNSF is doing. The next change order, when we awarded the contract, we mentioned we had two of the lines included in the bid had already been removed by BNSF. We went ahead and left the bid with it just because knowing we would drop it. The total credit for that is $12,320. The actual amount that BNSF billed us to remove those two lines is $650, so we're running ahead on that. The last item, if you go to the next slide, or the first one, I guess it would be, is $16,600. What this involved is we had to remove some pavement, to put in a straddle block. This is a relocation at the extension of Sycamore across the tracks. The existing mapping did not properly show the existing water line we were tying into. I had to come and remove some pavement and put in some additional structures just to make it work. So this is just because of the old mapping in this area was incorrect. With that, we request that you approve this change order, increasing the contract amount to $235,677.91. Again, of that increase, $20,520 to be reimbursed.
Questions? How would council like to proceed with new business item number 5?
I move that we authorize the city administrator to execute change orders numbers 1, 2, and 3 in the total amount of $24,854.91 to the construction contract with NJ Trenching for the BNSF Waterline Relocation Project.
Second.
Motion Freeman, second Harrison, that we approve new business item number 5. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. You want to go ahead and do number 6 since we've done everything else today? New business item number 6, consider appointing voting delegates to the 2012 League of Kansas Municipalities Conference. Cheryl.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. This item is related to the 2012 League of Kansas Municipalities Conference. In the past, the council has elected to, when it's been local, elected to appoint delegates and have delegates attend. The city has authorized up to 4 delegates. Conference is in Topeka. The full registration fee is $200. We can do a daily registration fee, which ranges from $85 to just under $150. The decision is whether or not there are council members who are interested in attending, and if so, whether or not the council would like to select delegates such that we can have them registered for the conference as official voting delegates on behalf of the city.
I know when the conference was in Overland Park, Brian Droxton and I attended the last day of the conference, which is the day that has the business meeting. I think that was $85, if I recall. I haven't looked at the brochure on this one, but I think that's what it was.
It's 140.
So the last day, the Monday, would be $140.
It is 140? Okay.
That is correct.
So if there is there any interest first in anyone attending?
Not able to with my work schedule.
I'd like to, but I won't be able to.
I
Because of my work schedule.
I can't.
Randy or Christie?
I can make time.
I would have to look,
Okay.
but I would definitely just, I would have to look for all 3 days.
I have interest.
To let you know.
Okay. If we could just,
This
By the
week.
17th?
by the 17th, Mayor,
The meeting, do we need to have a motion to
Yes,
appoint?
yes, if you would
appoint
please,
Randy and Christie.
as our delegates in the event they are able to attend.
Okay. Is there a motion to appoint Randy Gregorczyk and Christie Harrison as our delegates in the event they are able to attend?
I move we appoint council members Harrison and Gregorczyk as voting delegates at the 2012 League of Kansas Municipalities Conference.
Second.
Motion Morrow, second Freeman, that we appoint council members Gregorczyk and Harrison as voting delegates. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Council updates. Staff, anything for council?
Yes. You'll recall, many of you may be aware that last week, the City of Edgerton had an agenda item regarding heavy haul along their roadways. Initially, they were talking about not permitting it. They have since gone back and looked at allowing it along 191st. I've met with their city administrator to talk about their allowance of it, how it might impact traffic through the city of Gardner. So I just wanted to brief you and let you know that next week, when we have the work session on some of the roadway projects that the Department of Transportation is looking at for this area, I will give you a full update on heavy haul and some of the impacts of what Edgerton took action on this past week.
Does the five-county study have any information about those projections, or is that projected in the five-county study that they had?
No, because 191st is under construction, and they recently were asked to go back and allow heavy haul. Their initial position was not to allow it along that roadway. They have gone back to the Department of Transportation while it's under construction to ask them to upgrade it. And DOT has agreed to do, they're looking at doing the upgrade. However, the maintenance would be something that the City of Edgerton would be required to do, and that would go up to Waverly Road, which does have some impact that I think we should discuss for the City of Gardner because of the high cost of maintenance when you're doing concrete as opposed to asphalt on those roadways.
Why didn't Edgerton, this wasn't the plans to begin with, that there was going to be heavy hauling trucks?
I don't want to represent the history.
Yeah.
Their position was that they were not going to allow it. They have since changed their position.
Because the state has offered to pay for the upgraded road.
They went to the state and asked them if they would consider upgrading it. But the maintenance would be something that the city has to, which is quite costly.
So the city of Edgerton went to the state and asked them, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And this will be part of the presentation on...
Right, I will be providing. I met with their administrator after that meeting to fully understand what they were doing. And I'd like to brief you all at the Monday work session. Initially, the five-county briefing was going to be at the council meeting, but I had a council member to ask that we move it to a work session so we would have sufficient time to discuss it in detail. So that will be on the Monday work session.
Great, very good. Anyone else from staff? Council, anything for staff?
I just checked, and Medical Lodges is 100% employee-owned, which I would assume means it's for-profit. So I let everybody know that.
I have a quick question. It draws back to new business item 1, and one of the big problems I think we have from the beginning is we have no vehicle for enforcement if we can identify a user as being the one that creates the clogging and such. Is there a way that we can draft such things? I know we can't grandfather in, but moving forward with developments that are going to come in, is there wording and things that the city can put in place to identify this issue and have a resolution beforehand? I don't know if that's possible. It's a Jim, it's a Cheryl, it's a David question, but what can we do to kind of make sure that the next time this comes around, we can say, well, here's the City of Gardner's rules regarding that, and here's how we're going to enforce it with your piece of property.
It is possible. We can look and see what other cities have done. The biggest problem is proof.
Yep.
Unless you can find something that's got a name on it, you know, it's very difficult to prove that they're the ones that caused the problem, and was it only that piece that
Sure.
caused the problem, if there were a number of pieces of debris in the system? So I think most cities, I'm not aware of many cities actively trying to enforce that, and I could be wrong. There may be more going on than I.
It might be worth exploring just so when we can, especially when it's someone that's almost a normal user, would be much easier thing to come back and say, you know, these can't come from anywhere else, so then we can say, you're only offering us 50%, well, we appreciate that, but really your part of the puzzle, according to what we've already had in place when you developed the lane, was 80%, so might be worth exploring down the line. Yeah.
We don't have any restrictions on the types of grates that, when they install their plumbing, that, isn't there some ordinance that defines what type of service they have to maintain in order to use our system?
Well, the ordinance gets into basically the type of discharge, which is more the biological oxygen demand, the suspended solids. There's some language in there that talks about you have to be producing normal, basically residential type stuff. So if you're a industrial user and you're discharging a lot of grease, or you're discharging a lot of high oxygen demand, you have to pre-treat. The grate would be an intention of pre-treatment, but it failed. And, you know, I mean, we can either go in and jump up and down, and, you know, it's just a function of, you know, we're paying the price one way or the other. Let's just get it fixed so we can protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion Harrison, second Freeman, that we adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Perfect length of the meeting, one great square. I'm telling you.
Burlington Roy. Is that what Adam was talking about? A lot of the night.